What you want to be aware of is fees and underperforming investments. This is, I mean, Ted Benna, when he was on my podcast talking about 401ks, his big negative to a 401k, this is the guy that is known for founding it, for finding it, is, the fees. He said there's some 401ks with over 2% fees when you look at all of the things that are wrapped together. And a lot of them are hidden. So I would look at that. This is Better Wealth with Caleb Williams. All right, we're going to be talking about your 401k. Should you have a 401k? Are 401ks good or bad? Everything you need to know about a 401k is going to be in this episode. So stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of the Better Wealth Show, where we're unlocking intentional living so that you can really get your money thing figured out, so you can live more intentionally, show up more powerfully, and live the life of your dreams. And this is a hot topic. And so I already know that if you're watching this on YouTube, comments could be all over the place. Here's my commitment to you. I'm going to put myself aside and assume that if you were sitting across the table from me, I'm going to take you through this framework. And by the end of this framework, you will have clarity on should you do a 401k or should you not. We're going to go away from this name calling environment of this thing is bad, this thing is good. That's very elementary. Everyone's in a different place in life. And so with that, here's my disclaimer. Don't sue me, because I'm not giving you financial advice, because I don't know your situation. But I really am confident that going through this framework, you will have more clarity on what you should be doing. And this is all based off of the series, the Asset Analyzer, the 4-step framework of making a decision. And the 4 steps are this: get clear on what you want out of life. It sounds really simple, but it's the hardest question that you may have in your life. Number 2, what is an asset? Just identify what is an asset. Number 3 is get clear on the outcome. This is probably the most important thing, because a lot of people do not have a clear understanding of outcome. And then number 4, have some type of metric to measure other assets. And so we go through the 11 key attributes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out the description below, where I can give kind of a summary of that. And again, there's a lot of people out there that are giving, videos on what a 401k is, or updates to this year's 401k deal. And what I want to do is I want this video to be more timeless. And really, I'm going to be doing different examples. Like, future videos are going to be on Roth and real estate and life insurance and annuity and all that stuff. And my whole goal is I'm going to take you through the same framework. You're going to be pretty, it might be pretty boring, but it could be one of the most powerful things when you understand how to think. It can be so powerful. I used this example before, but going to school, some classes I've actually learned the subject because I was interested in understanding how things work. I didn't care about the grade, and I got a good grade in that class because I really, tried. Then there was other classes that I would just study for the test, and I still got good grades in those classes, but I couldn't tell you a thing what I learned. So the hope is not to memorize certain things, but to actually understand. So with that, what is a 401k? 401k is a tax advantage defined contribution retirement account offered by many employers for their employees. And, there's obviously a benefit in the tax code that gives the employers the ability to do a matching contribution. There's some kind of tax benefit. There's 2 types of 401ks. There's the traditional 401k, which I'm going to be talking about in this video. There's also a Roth 401k that, in another video where I talk about Roth, it's a different tax benefit. And quite frankly, I think is superior, in my humble opinion, as it relates to where taxes are going in the future. But put my biases aside, there's traditional and Roth. Not every 401k, not every company has a 401k, and not every company that has a 401k has the Roth option. So that's something to know. And if you are, working for the government or a nonprofit, a 403b is something very similar. It's a very similar plan. It's just different part of the tax code that says this is for nonprofits. And so this would apply to you as well. And just also to note that in 2021, the contribution limit for people under the age of 50 were $19,500. For people over the age of 50, it is $26,000 with a $6,500 catch-up contribution. Again, you can learn a lot more on Investopedia or other videos. But what I want to do is I want to take you through, should you do your 401k? Because I think a lot of people are just doing it just to do it. And you might find that was the best decision. This video may be challenging you to what you should be doing. So first question is, if money wasn't an issue at all, what would you be doing with your life? What really what I'm trying to get at is, what do you really want out of life? What is your why? What is, if money didn't matter at all, what would you want to be doing? Get clear on that. And again, it might feel so out of reach. That's fine. At least put it down. And so we want that to be the metric, because isn't it true that if we get clear on what we actually want, anything that we do with our time and money should be pointing back to that. Anything that we do with our time and money should be pointing back to that thing. And so for me, I'm really clear that my mission is to help people live more intentionally. My mission is to help people see the potential that they have and reach it throughout life. So that's why I'm showing up today. That's why we have a company that helps people with money. That's why I write books. That's why I speak. That's why I'm doing this YouTube videos. I want people to grasp that. And you know, one of the reasons I love Better Wealth so much is we're helping people with that framework live, you know, to their highest potential, live more intentionally because of that. So that's why I get up, and ultimately the more money I make, I want to pour on the business that I'm in so that I can grow the outreach. So for someone who's really passionate about their business, it might be a lot easier. For you, it might be harder, but remember, that is the metric. So we need to get really clear on that. Number two is just understand, like, what is an asset? Like, what is an asset-based activity? What is an asset altogether? There's a lot of definitions. Investopedia would say an asset is something of economic value. Robert Kiyosaki would consider an asset being anything that puts money back in your pocket. I simply think an asset is anything that helps you get closer to where you want to go. And we're going to be talking solely about your money at this time, but I think a lot of people, in the way that they spend their time, could audit that and say, am I spending my time in areas that could help me get closer or farther? So an asset is something that helps you get closer to your ideal life. And then number three is what kind of outcome do you want? And I think outcome is really the most important thing when we talk about the 401k, is because if we get clear on where you want to go, we get clear on, okay, we make a list of possible assets that we could be investing our money in. The third question is, what outcome do I really want? Now, this is really important because a 401k may be great if it aligns with the outcome that you want, but you may tell me you want a certain outcome, and a 401k could be holding you behind. There's nothing to do with an investment advice. This has everything to do with values. So I will say this: if I'm sitting across the table from someone, and they're telling me that their desired outcome is to accumulate money, to grow money most effectively, so that someday that they can retire. And what I would challenge them on is, okay, you're growing your money not just to feel good when you hit retirement, but that it's to turn that lump of money into a stream of income of some sort. And there's a lot of strategies there. I've done a podcast. I've actually done podcasts with the person that discovered the 401k, Ted Benna. I've done a podcast with Jason Sanger, who runs a company called Wealth Building Cornerstones. I've done a podcast with Dr. Wade Fowle, and they're all talking about this retirement. Even, you know, Ted Benna talks about some of the pros and cons of 401k, and they're all talking about you have to think with the end in mind. So they're not against 401ks at all. In fact, I would say that a lot of them would recommend them for a lot of people. But they're saying, if you're going to grow your money, you have to understand the end in mind and maybe create a strategy. So if I'm sitting across the table from you and you're saying, my goal is to grow my money, I'm then asking another follow-up question. Okay, what is the outcome of growing your money? It's to retire. And then so it's like a stream of income. Okay. And making sure that there's efficiency throughout the whole process. Okay. So let's assume for the moment that you want to grow your money, and that's the outcome, because I don't think the 401k has any other benefit other than that. Like, I think as we go through the 11 key attributes, it's very, very clear that a 401k has its one thing that I think the purpose of it for. And if accumulating your money is not interesting to you, I don't know if there's much conversation other than that because of how it's designed. But again, we're taking you through the process. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, if the goal is to accumulate money, now what we have to look at is we have to create a list of all kinds of assets that could accomplish that. Okay, so a savings account. I guess a savings account could grow my money, but it's really poor. Okay, I could put my money in a special stock account, but because of tax disadvantages, you could say, maybe the 401k out of the three is the most efficient. And then within that, you would have to look at, you know, is there then you'd have to compare, is a Roth 401k better than a traditional 401k? Maybe I'll do a video just comparing those two. But these are the 11 attributes that you can take any asset and actually have the conversation and start analyzing which ones that you favor. And so the 11 attributes, and again, they're in the description below, and I've done a video breaking down all the definition. But attribute number 1 is safety. Another way to say is low risk. Number 2 is liquidity. Number 3 is growth. Number 4 is passive cash flow. Number 5 is leverageable. Number 6 is private. Number 7 is tax deductible. Number 8 is grows tax-free. Number 9 is tax-free distribution. Number 10 is protection. Number 11 is there's no contribution limit. So a perfect asset obviously would check all the boxes. There's no such thing as a perfect asset. And so now we're getting into the values conversation. So in a 401k, okay, outcome, I think, is to grow your wealth. If we're aligned and if we understand, then we're going to go and analyze, okay, is a 401k safe? Is it low risk? I'm going to say no. Because I don't think a lot of people would say, yeah, I put my money in a 401k because it's the safest place to put my money. No, I think the purpose is to grow your money. So the answer is no for safety. Liquidity. Is a 401k liquid, or do you have control over it? Now, if I add control to liquidity, and I think those go hand in hand, I would say no. But for this, I'm going to give it maybe. And here's why. Because in a 401k, you do have access to that money. Now, it might be subject to taxes. It might be subject to fees. It might be subject to you might not get your money for a very long time, depending on who's running that 401k plan. But the point is, you have some kind of control over it. You might get your hand slapped. It might be a negative thing. It might not be fast. You have some control over it. I'm not going to say yes because it's not super liquid, but I'm not going to say totally no because it's more liquid than having a land, a property that may or may not sell. Number 3, growth. Now, the answer here is hopefully, and so I'll say yes. What I would really look at this for your 401k is, what does the match look like? There's some 401k plans that don't have a match at all. Okay, a match versus no match is a match would be better. Okay, if you're gonna go into the 401k plan as a whole. Now, and a lot of times people say a match is 100% on your money. You actually look at the whole spectrum of investing. It's not like it might increase it by a few percentages or a 0.5% over a lifetime. So it's like, we don't want to get caught into like, this is free money, but a match could make it very advantageous, again, if the goal is to accumulate. And so you want to look into that. What you want to be aware of is fees and underperforming investments. This is, Ted Benna, when he was on my podcast talking about 401ks, his big negative to a 401k, this is the guy that is known for founding it, for finding it, is, the fees. He said there's some 401ks with over 2% fees when you look at all of the things that are wrapped together. And a lot of them are hidden. So I would look at that, and I would also look at underperforming investments, because a 401k is just really a wrapper that helps you invest. So number 3 is make sure, like, this is probably the most important thing in the 401k. So make sure you understand that, because that's one of the only big benefits here. Number 4 is passive cash flow. And passive cash flow, the answer is no. Number 5 is leverageable. The answer is no. You can't leverage your 401k. It's a private retirement account. Number 6 is private. Okay, so I put maybe here, and here's why I put maybe. It is creditor protection. So like that, there's creditor protection to it. The negative thing about the 401k is the government can literally change the rules at any time, which is kind of scary. So yes, it's private, but the government can change the rules pretty easily. And this is really extreme, but they could take away your 401k. They wouldn't. There'd be a big problem. There are a lot of people would be unhappy, but the reality is they can tax your 401k in certain things, and so that could be problematic. Number 7 is this tax deductible? Yes, which means in a traditional 401k, you get a deduction by putting your money into the 401k. So that could be a huge benefit. Number 8 is tax-free growth. So there's efficiency of not having to pay taxes as it grows. Number 9, and this is probably the biggest negative and something that to look into, is tax redistribution. It's no. And this is in a traditional Roth IRA. You do not, you have to pay taxes on whatever the tax rate and the tax threshold is. And when you look at our country and you look at where we are going in the future, that can be really terrifying. And I personally have a belief that taxes are going to be higher in the future than lower. And so if that's the case, that's going to go into the different type of 401ks potentially, or different kind of accounts that I would look to compound my money, because that's important. Now, I also talk to people that are confident or very much like, hey, I'm in the top tax bracket. When I hit retirement, I'm going to be in a lower, and they like, that's their belief. Then if that's your belief, you'd be better off taking a deduction today at the high tax bracket and taking it out at the low. What I'm asking people is not just to look back the last 30 years, but look forward and see where we're going as a country. Number 10, protection / legacy. There's no type of life insurance protection if you die or get disabled. It's not like the 401k is funding itself or going to self-fulfill. So that's a no there. And then contribution limits. 401k does have contribution limits. And that's, at the end of the day, check out everyone's in a different situation. I know there's things like solo 401k. So there's creative ways to stick money into a 401k, but you can't put millions of dollars into a 401k. So those are some things to analyze as you're going through the 401k, and realize the brilliance of going through this. Because when you go through this, you might highlight, okay, I like the 401k. I love the match. I love the investment. I think it's a great with growth, but I don't love the tax. I don't love that. I would much rather not have the tax deduction, but have tax-free distribution. Well, maybe your company has a Roth option. And if that's the values, if you identify which ones that are really important to you, you might realize, oh, this is what I want to do. You may also realize that, okay, if my goal is to accumulate money, I can actually do this activity over here that can better accumulate money than my 401k. I'll use myself as an example. 401k for me, if I had a money, ultimately we're called to be good stewards of that money. And if I can, in this pot, grow it through business, through people, through, doing things like shows and sponsoring events, like, I might be able to have a greater outcome by even growing my money by 65 than putting it into a 401k, even with a match, and hoping it grows. Because for me, I value liquidity and control a lot because of who I am. Now, I will also say this, that one of the biggest benefits of a 401k is the automatic withdrawal. And if we just understand human behavior, if you really look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I going to actually grow this money, or am I just lying to myself? And would I be better off lacking liquidity and control? And by lacking liquidity, I'm actually better off because that money's locked up. I can't mess it up. It's automatically going in. It doesn't make one right or wrong. It's all about values. I would say majority of people should not have liquidity and control over their money because they'll bankrupt themselves. By you watching this video about money, though, you're probably a little bit more intentional than the average person as it relates to how you use your money. So it's just like, we just got to be very careful to take blanket advice, because at the end, I could point to accumulation might not be the end goal. So it's like, we have to really, if all your money's in a 401k and you hit retirement, you may be wishing that you had some different strategies or different assets that could enhance that retirement income. So with that, that's the 401k conversation. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts. You can email me at caleb@betterwealth.com for more video ideas, for questions, for critiques. You can also critique me in the comments. I like all comments and learn from you guys. Also, just going back to, we're all about intentional living here as a company, and we would love to hear your story. And as we continue to grow, we just appreciate all the people that like in these videos, that are sharing, that are helping us get our content out to more people. We really, really, really appreciate that. If there's anything that I can do, please let me know. Go out, live intentionally, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the Better Wealth Podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.